Eager to discover Lami's request, Luo inquired about her intentions. However, instead of offering to complete his homework, Lami expressed her desire to teach him how to do it himself. Confused, Luo questioned why he had gone through the trouble of transforming her into human form if not to assist with his assignments. Lami responded by explaining that it's not right to expect rewards without putting in any effort, emphasizing that everything has a price. She acknowledged her willingness to teach him but insisted that he must take responsibility for his own work. Luo wondered why he was being forced to do his homework on his own. Nevertheless, Luo asserted his authority, reminding Lami that she was a fountain pen and he was her master. He commanded her to complete his homework for him. Unexpectedly, Lami grabbed a ruler and gave Luo a stern slap, determined to use it to discipline him if he disobeyed. Realizing he couldn't challenge her, Luo reluctantly agreed to obey her instructions, vowing to no longer be lazy. He accepted Lami's offer to teach him. Lami began teaching him, but it didn't take long for Luo to shout with excitement, raising his hand in triumph, proclaiming that he had finally conquered the most challenging subject, mathematics. Teaching him proved to be a grueling task for Lami, as Luo required a significant amount of energy and guidance. His academic abilities were far from exceptional, and Lami grew increasingly frustrated. Exhausted, she abruptly stood up and went to sleep, leaving Luo to continue his studies on his own. Determined to surprise Lami when she woke up, Luo decided to work on the subject he felt most confident in, biology. He reassured himself that it would be embarrassing for someone as academically capable as him to struggle with biology. However, he found it difficult to grasp the concepts and understand the material. Frustrated, Luo went to wake up Lami, seeking her assistance with the biology assignment. To his surprise, Lami forcefully pushed him onto the bed and positioned herself on top of him. Bewildered, Luo questioned her actions, to which she responded that she wanted to teach him biology. The next thing Luo knew, he woke up and realized he must have fallen asleep. He couldn't recall what had transpired after Lami had gotten on top of him. He quickly remembered that he still had unfinished homework to attend to. Making his way to where the assignments were kept, Luo discovered that Lami had indeed completed the work for him. Luo headed to his school, where he happened to run into one of his teachers. The teacher reminded him of the summer social practice job he had signed up for as a lifeguard in a waterfront park. However, the teacher informed him that the position had been temporarily cancelled. Assuring Luo not to worry, the teacher mentioned that he had arranged an alternative job as a cleaning staff member at a scenic spot. Disappointed, Luo didn't relish the idea of being a cleaner. He had hoped to be a lifeguard, envisioning himself as a brave and handsome hero. Despite his disappointment, Luo left the office and encountered Uncle Zhang, the person in charge of the social practice program. Uncle Zhang introduced himself, shaking Luo's hand, and handed him the cleaner's uniform, signaling the start of his new job. Under the scorching sun, Luo toiled outside, diligently performing his cleaning duties. As he worked, he spotted a familiar face, Zhang Yun, a girl he had known before. To his dismay, he noticed that she was being harassed by a guy who persisted in pestering her, holding her hand against her will. Luo mustered his courage and approached the scene, firmly gripping the guy's hand. He calmly explained that it was unbecoming of him to continue harassing Zhang Yun, given that they had broken up. In response, the guy belittled Luo, mocking him for being a mere cleaner and telling him to mind his own business. Unfazed, Luo proudly declared that, despite being a cleaner, he was also a staff member in that area and threatened to summon security to remove the guy if he persisted in his unreasonable behavior. Luo threw the broom he held at the guy, causing him to stumble and fall. Turning back to Zhang Yun, Luo asked if she was alright, surprised to see him in his cleaner's outfit. Scratching his head, Luo explained that it was a summer social practice arranged by the school, and it was his turn to volunteer as a cleaner for the day. Luo sensed that the guy who had been pestering Zhang Yun might return, so he offered to accompany her back if she didn't mind. Zhang Yun apologized for causing him trouble. As they sought shelter from the rain inside a car, a few seconds of silence passed between Luo and Zhang Yun. She realized that her clothes had become wet and worried about facing consequences for it. In a moment of vulnerability, she asked Luo if she could dry her clothes at his house. Zhang followed Luo to his small and slightly messy house. It was her first time visiting, and she expressed her gratitude for allowing her to come in and shelter from the rain. Luo warmly welcomed her and offered her a seat. He went to fetch a cup of water for Zhang to drink. As she noticed the adorable cat that Luo had, Zhang expressed her desire to have a pet like that. Realizing that Zhang might catch a cold if she continued wearing her wet clothes, Luo kindly suggested that she take a shower. He showed her the washroom and offered her some of his own clothes to change into, along with a bath towel. While Zhang went to the bathroom, Luo couldn't help but feel foolish for agreeing to her request and bringing her to his house. He couldn't understand why he had pretended to be a good person. Deciding to focus on something else, Luo began preparing a meal. Before Zhang could finish dressing up, Luo had already made noodles for them to eat. As they sat down to enjoy the meal, Zhang noticed the fountain pen she had given him on the table. She was surprised that Luo still had it and asked why he kept it. Luo expressed his appreciation for the pen, explaining how helpful it had been to him. Zhang was glad to hear that Luo found it useful. Once they finished eating, Zhang inquired about the bandages on Luo's hands, concerned that he might be injured. Luo quickly concocted a lie, claiming that he had a skin allergy and needed to apply medication, suggesting that he wash the dishes instead. Zhang, feeling comfortable around him and considering themselves to be close, insisted on washing the dishes herself. However, as Luo submerged his hands in the sink, Zhang shouted in alarm, fearing that his bandaged hand might get hurt. In that moment, the cat brushed against her leg, causing her slipper to slide off, and Luo swiftly caught her to prevent her from falling. Unfortunately, in the process, the bandage on Luo's hand came undone, revealing a small portion of the wet, exposed skin, and a small girl appeared. Zhang asked Luo for an explanation about the sudden appearance of the little girl. Luo promised to explain, on the condition that she would keep it a secret. Zhang agreed, and Luo began to share his extraordinary secret. He told her that he possessed a unique superpower. At first, Zhang thought he was exaggerating, claiming to have a superpower. However, in order to make her believe him, Luo showed her the little girl who had appeared, dressed in the same clothes Zhang had been wearing. "Doesn't this little girl look exactly like the clothes you were wearing?" Luo asked Zhang. The sight astonished her, and she began to accept that Luo was telling the truth. Intrigued, Zhang urged Luo to explain his superpower further. He revealed that anything he touched with his right hand would transform into a living being, specifically into a babe. Zhang couldn't believe what she was hearing. She was filled with a mixture of astonishment and disbelief. The clothes she had been wearing had been transformed into a living child. Realizing the potential implications of this power, Luo expressed concern that his secret might get out. He pleaded with Zhang to keep it a secret from everyone. However, Zhang found it ironic that someone who had once been nicknamed Delusional Boy would now wish to keep such an extraordinary ability hidden. Nevertheless, she agreed to keep his secret, respecting Luo's wishes. Curious about the fate of the little girl, Zhang questioned Luo about his plans for her. Luo reassured her that the girl would eventually transform back. Zhang checked the time and realized it was already midnight, making it difficult for her to return home. Concerned for her well-being, Luo suggested that she spend the night at his house. Zhang surprised Luo by suddenly asking him to be her boyfriend. Luo couldn't help but shout in dismay upon hearing Zhang's confession. It took him by surprise that she had actually liked him for quite some time. He wondered if he was becoming popular with girls. Luo questioned why Zhang had chosen this moment to reveal her feelings. Curiosity piqued, he asked her if there was a particular reason she wanted him to be her boyfriend. Zhang hesitated for a moment before sharing her reasons. She explained that if she stayed over at Luo's house as his girlfriend, her parents wouldn't scold her. Additionally, she had been bothered by numerous guys attempting to make advances towards her, and having Luo as her fake boyfriend would serve as a shield against such pestering. She further suggested that Luo should continue to act as her boyfriend even outside. Luo remained silent, processing Zhang's request. He realized that it was indeed a challenging one. Zhang, aware of the difficulty, admitted her apprehension, especially considering her past experiences with her ex-boyfriend, who seemed a little unhinged. After carefully considering her words, Luo agreed to help her whenever she needed such assistance. Zhang expressed her gratitude for his acceptance. As for the little girl, she still lacked a name. Luo decided to name her Yi, which had the same pronunciation as clothes. When Zhang learned of this, she asked Luo why he had chosen that name. Luo explained that he had a simple way of giving names and had chosen Yi because it was easy to remember. With midnight approaching, they decided it was time to go to sleep. The next morning, Zhang had already prepared herself to return home. Luo intended to drive her back, but she assured him that it was unnecessary since the weather had cleared up. However, Luo still advised her to be careful on the road. Before leaving, Zhang leaned in close and whispered to Luo, asking if Yi had transformed back. To Luo's surprise, Zhang retained her memories of Yi, as she had been transformed from the clothes she was wearing. Luo confirmed that Yi had indeed transformed back, and Zhang expressed her hopes of meeting her again. They bid each other farewell, and Zhang left the house. Luo couldn't help but wonder why Zhang's memories of Yi had not faded away, as he had believed that memories of the transformed objects would be wiped out once his superpower subsided. The lingering question puzzled him as he pondered over it. Luo was still deep in sleep when the sound of the doorbell roused him from his slumber. He groggily made his way to the door and opened it. Standing there was a girl who had come to borrow his television. She explained that she wanted to invite her classmates over to play video games, but her own television had suddenly stopped working. Much to her surprise, Luo informed her that he didn't have a television since he lived alone. The girl seemed shocked at the idea that some people didn't own televisions and apologized for troubling Luo before leaving. Luo couldn't help but find it normal for a guy who lived alone not to have a television. After all, he had his computer, which served his entertainment needs. He contemplated this as he heard the doorbell ring once again, causing him to grow irritated. He asked in frustration who it was this time. To his surprise, it was a delivery person who had come to bring him something. The delivery person asked Luo to sign for the package, but Luo found it odd since he hadn't made any recent purchases. Opening the box, Luo discovered a television inside, along with a letter from his mother. The letter explained that she was giving him the television because she had no use for it and nowhere to store it. Luo plugged in the television, but it only worked for a few seconds before shutting down. He wondered if his mother had given him a broken television out of laziness to repair it. It seemed to be an old model that was no longer in production, making maintenance a challenging task. Thinking quickly, Luo decided to use his superpower to transform the television into a girl. He wanted to make her feel more at ease, so he explained that they were in his new place where he lived alone, not his previous house. The girl coughed, hinting at the fact that a television model as old as she was should have been discarded a long time ago. Feeling a sense of sympathy, Luo gently held the girl's hands and assured her that he would find a way to repair her. She then requested that he take her outside, as she had never seen the world beyond the signals on the screen with her own eyes. Luo agreed, suggesting they stay within the city and not venture too far. The girl eagerly expressed her desire to go immediately, to which Luo exclaimed, "Today." Luo and she stood outside, surrounded by the breathtaking sights that lay before them. Each place they passed seemed familiar to her, and she couldn't help but express her awe, proclaiming that they were all truly beautiful. However, Luo quickly cautioned her, reminding her to keep her voice down and be mindful of her words. He knew the significance of their location, and it was important to tread carefully. Deciding to divert her attention, Luo led her to another place, emphasizing the need for her to behave appropriately. They stumbled upon an ice cream shop, and her face lit up with delight as she eagerly indulged in the frozen treat. Through the shop window, she noticed an array of clothes that caught her eye, captivating her with their style and allure. Unable to resist her curiosity, Luo guided her inside to get a closer look. As they explored the store, trying on various outfits, her excitement grew. She admired herself in the mirror. Eventually, Luo surprised her by purchasing one of the outfits she had tried on, making her heart swell with gratitude. Continuing their tour, they stumbled upon a lively cosplay event. Without hesitation, she joined in the fun, and posing for a photo alongside Luo. As they made their way back home, she couldn't contain her gratitude, turning to Luo and expressing her heartfelt thanks for fulfilling her deepest wish. With a serene smile, she reassured him that she now had no regrets left. And with those final words, she disappeared. Luo found himself alone, engulfed in a sea of loneliness after her sudden disappearance. He had never anticipated that it would happen so swiftly, leaving him with an aching void in his heart. The absence of the television princess also meant that her original clothes had vanished. Determined to ease his desolation, Luo decided to bring Yuzora along for an outing. Sensing the need for caution, he advised her to be more aware of her surroundings, adopting the role of a careful and discreet female protagonist. Perplexed, she failed to grasp Luo's intention behind his words. Patiently, Luo explained that her current attire, consisting of the same set of conspicuous clothes, attracted unwanted attention from others whenever they ventured outside. It dawned on her that the clothes she always wore were the ones Luo had purchased for her. Confused, she questioned Luo's dissatisfaction with her wardrobe, since he was the one who had chosen the clothes for her. Luo took Yuzora to a store with a vast selection of normal clothing. Inside, they were greeted by an array of beautiful garments, enticing them with their appeal. Luo encouraged her to take her time, perusing the options and trying on whatever caught her eye. Overwhelmed by the abundance of choices, she sought Luo's guidance in selecting the perfect outfit. Grateful for his help, Luo handed her a multitude of garments to try on. Emerging from the dressing room, she wore a particularly short outfit, unaware of Luo's oversight. He had forgotten to provide her with a pair of pants to wear underneath. Recognizing his mistake, Luo quickly instructed her not to step outside yet, promising to bring her a suitable pair of pants. Yuzora couldn't contain her joy at the multitude of clothes Luo had purchased for her. Overflowing with gratitude, she thanked him sincerely for his generosity. However, their moment was interrupted as it became apparent that it was time for her to disappear. Startled, the bag she was holding slipped from her grasp, and Luo instinctively wrapped his arms around her, seeking solace in the embrace. Deep within his heart, he held onto the conviction that they would meet again, just as he had with Mimi. Engrossed in his video game, Luo had completely forgotten about eating until his hunger pangs reminded him of his neglected appetite. Realizing that there were no noodles left at home, he acknowledged his oversight in restocking them. Feeling the emptiness in his stomach grow, Luo decided to venture outside to find something to eat. However, in his haste, he forgot to wrap the bandage around his right hand. Luo reassured himself that his superpower shouldn't activate at this moment, as he had already used it to transform Yuzora and bought her new clothes in the morning. It was only 11 p.m., and he had few of time to return home before midnight. Determined to complete his shopping quickly, he set off. As he walked along the street, his attention was caught by the astonishing progress made in the construction of the community building's second phase. In that moment, he made a mental note to discuss the possibility of his mother renting an apartment there. Luo found himself craving something other than noodles. He decided to order a rice bowl with potatoes and beef, hoping to satiate his hunger. Aware of the time, he realized that he was running late. Regretfully, he acknowledged that he should have returned home to bandage his injured hand before setting out. Worries started to flood his mind, imagining all the potential mishaps that could occur along the way. Determined to make it back before midnight, he hurriedly rushed home. As he hurried through the rain-soaked streets, he caught sight of a young couple engaged in flirtatious banter, momentarily distracting him from his own urgency. Just then, rain began to pour, making the pavement slippery and nearly causing him to lose his footing. Finally, he arrived at the door of his house and he was already late. Pausing for a moment, Luo contemplated the power he possessed. He had previously believed that his ability only extended to transforming individual objects or people. However, as he reached out and touched the wall of the building, an unexpected phenomenon occurred. A brilliant flash of light engulfed the entire structure, leaving Luo in awe and disbelief. The building had transformed entirely, morphing into a stunning babe. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of his power, Luo could hardly comprehend the implications. The limits of his abilities had been shattered, leaving him both amazed and perplexed at the extraordinary transformation that had unfolded before his eyes.